I own a small bookshop in the arts district, the kind of place with mismatched armchairs, a temperamental espresso machine, and more poetry than profit margin. I've been here for 3 years, and I know my regulars. I know who buys romance novels and hides them in literary fiction dust jackets. I know who comes in just to sit by the window and pretend to read while they cry. I know the difference between browsers and buyers within 30 seconds. But her, I had no idea what she was doing. She walked in on a Tuesday morning in late September. I remember because Tuesdays are always slow, and I'd been reorganizing the classics section, which is code for avoiding real work. The bell above the door chimed, and I looked up to see this woman step inside like she was entering a cathedral. Careful, almost reverent. She was probably in her early 30s, same as me, tall, with dark hair pulled back in a loose bun that looked effortlessly elegant, in that way that probably took 15 minutes to perfect. She wore a charcoal blazer over a white shirt, jeans that fit her like they were custom-made, and she carried a leather messenger bag that had that beautiful worn patina that only comes from years of use. I did what I always do. I smiled, said good morning, told her to let me know if she needed help finding anything. She nodded. Didn't smile back. Didn't speak. Just nodded and walked toward the fiction section. I went back to my alphabetizing, but I watched her from the corner of my eye. She moved through the aisles slowly, trailing her fingers along the spines. She'd pull out a book, read the back cover, flip through a few pages, then slide it back into place. This went on for maybe 20 minutes. Then she left without buying anything. I thought that was the end of it. She came back the next day. Same time, almost to the minute. Same routine. She walked in, nodded at me, browsed for 15 or 20 minutes, and left, empty-handed. By the 3rd day, I was curious. By the 5th day, I was invested. By the end of the 1st week, I was completely fascinated. She never bought anything, never asked questions, never even made eye contact for more than a second. But she came in every single day, and every single day I found myself waiting for that bell to chime. I started paying attention to what sections she visited. Fiction, mostly. Literary fiction, not genre. She seemed drawn to books about relationships, about women finding themselves, about quiet transformations. She'd pick up the same book multiple times over different visits, like she was trying to decide something. I'm not usually the type to overthink things. I'm practical. I run a business. I deal in inventory and invoices and the concrete reality of making rent every month. But something about her presence in my shop felt like a question I couldn't answer. Was she casing the place? That seemed ridiculous. Was she lonely and just needed somewhere to go? Possible, but why not buy anything? Was she waiting for something? Was she waiting for me to say something? That thought arrived in the middle of week 2, and once it was there, I couldn't shake it. I started noticing other things. The way she'd glance toward the register when she thought I wasn't looking. The way she'd pause near the counter on her way out, like she was gathering courage to speak, then think better of it. The way her fingers would fidget with the strap of her bag. I'm not great at reading people, but I know nervousness when I see it. And this woman, for all her polished composure, was nervous. On day 12, I decided to test my theory. When she walked in, I didn't just smile and give my usual greeting. I asked her a direct question. "How are you today?" She stopped. Actually stopped walking and looked at me. Her eyes were this incredible deep brown, warm and startled at the same time. "I'm good," she said. Her voice was lower than I expected, a little rough, like she didn't use it enough. Thanks. Then she disappeared into the stacks, and I felt like I'd just done something monumentally brave and monumentally stupid at the same time. But the next day, she said good morning first. It was just 2 words, quiet and quick, but my heart did this ridiculous flutter thing that I hadn't felt since college. I said good morning back, and she almost smiled. Almost. We started having these tiny exchanges, nothing deep, just the small talk you'd have with any regular customer. But it felt different, charged, like we were both aware of some unspoken thing hovering between us. I learned her name was Claire. She worked in architecture at a firm downtown. She'd moved to the city 6 months ago and was still finding her footing. She liked her coffee black and her books complicated. I told her about the shop, about how I'd left a corporate job to do this, about the terror and freedom of working for myself. She listened like every word mattered, leaning against the counter with her full attention on me. She still didn't buy anything. 3 weeks in, my best friend Maya came by the shop and caught me staring at the door like a puppy waiting for its owner to come home. "You have it so bad," Maya said, laughing. "I don't know what you're talking about." I lied. "The woman who comes in every day and doesn't buy books. You're in love with her. I'm not in love with her. I don't even know her." Maya raised an eyebrow. "You know her coffee order and her job and probably her favorite color at this point." "When are you going to ask her out?" The thought had crossed my mind multiple times, but every time I considered it, fear grabbed me by the throat. What if I was reading this wrong? What if she was just friendly? What if she was straight? What if I made things weird and she stopped coming? And then there was the bigger fear, the one I didn't want to look at directly. What if she said yes? What if this turned into something real and I had to risk my heart again after swearing I was done with that? Day 27 was a Friday. Claire came in during the afternoon instead of the morning, and she looked different, tired. Her hair was down, falling around her shoulders, and she wasn't wearing her blazer, just a soft grey sweater that made her look younger, more vulnerable. "Rough day?" I asked when she approached the counter. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You could say that." I made her a coffee without asking. She wrapped her hands around the mug like she was trying to absorb its warmth. "Thank you," she said quietly. We stood there in silence for a moment. The shop was empty, except for us. Rain had started pattering against the windows, creating this cocoon of intimacy. "Can I ask you something, Hugh?" I said before I could stop myself. "Why do you come here every day?" She looked up at me, and something shifted in her expression. A wall coming down, maybe. Or a decision being made. "Honestly?" she said. I nodded. "At first I came because I was looking for a book, something specific that I couldn't remember the title of. I thought if I browsed enough, I'd recognize it. But then I kept coming back because of you." My breath caught. "Because of me?" She set down her coffee mug, and her hands were shaking slightly. "You're the first person in this city who made me feel like I could belong somewhere. Every time I walked in here, you looked at me like I mattered, like I was someone worth noticing. And I didn't know how to tell you that without sounding completely ridiculous, so I just kept showing up, hoping maybe you'd understand what I couldn't say." I came around the counter without thinking, stood in front of her with my heart pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. "I noticed you," I said, "from the first day. I've been waiting for you to say something, to give me some sign that this wasn't all in my head." "It's not in your head," she whispered. We were close enough now that I could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes, could smell the faint scent of her perfume, something clean and citrusy. I could feel the heat radiating from her body. "Oh, I've been terrified," she said, "of wanting this, of wanting you. I haven't let myself want anything in so long." "Me too," I admitted. "I'm scared out of my mind right now." She smiled then, a real smile that transformed her entire face. "What are we scared of?" "Everything," I said, and then I kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, both of us testing the reality of this thing we'd been circling for weeks. But then her hand came up to cup my face, and I felt her sigh against my lips, and something inside me just melted. I kissed her deeper, threading my fingers through her hair, pulling her closer. She tasted like coffee and possibility. She kissed me like she'd been starving for this. And maybe she had been. Maybe we both had been. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. Her forehead rested against mine, and she was smiling. "I should probably buy a book now," she said. I laughed, giddy and breathless. "You really should. You've been terrible for my sales numbers." She did buy a book that day, a collection of love poems by Adrienne Rich. She also stayed until I closed the shop, and we went to dinner at a tiny Italian place around the corner, and we talked until they kicked us out at midnight. She told me about her last relationship, how it had ended badly and left her afraid to trust anyone, how she'd seen my shop from the street one day and felt drawn to it, to the warmth visible through the windows, how she'd convinced herself she was just looking for books. But really, she was looking for courage. I told her about my own heartbreaks, about choosing this shop over a relationship that demanded I play it safe, about learning to be alone and finding strength in it, but also how lonely that strength sometimes felt. We walked back to my apartment holding hands, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world, like we'd been doing this for years instead of hours. That night, we lay in my bed just talking, kissing, exploring this new territory with wonder and care. There was no rush. We had time. We'd already spent a month learning patience. When I woke up the next morning, she was still there, sleeping peacefully beside me with her dark hair spread across my pillow. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, painting everything gold. She opened her eyes and smiled at me sleepily. "Morning," she murmured. "Morning," I said back. She comes to the shop every day still, but now she brings me coffee instead of accepting mine. Now she kisses me hello and goodbye. Now she sits in the armchair by the window and reads while I work, and sometimes I'll look up and catch her watching me with this soft expression that makes my chest ache in the best way. She bought a book that first day, and she's bought dozens since, but I think we both know that was never really what she was shopping for. Sometimes the things we're searching for aren't on any shelf. Sometimes they're standing right in front of us, waiting for us to be brave enough to reach out. Sometimes love looks like a woman who walks into your shop every day for a month, building courage one visit at a time. And sometimes, if you're lucky, love looks like finally finding the words to say what your heart has been whispering all along. "I'm glad you kept coming back," I told her a few weeks later, wrapped together on my couch. "I'm glad you waited for me," she said. "And really, that's what love is, isn't it? The waiting and the showing up, the patience and the courage, the moment when two people finally stop being afraid and start being honest. Claire still comes to my shop every day, but now she's not just browsing. Now she's home."